Thank you. Hello to you, head of the Israel Beiteinu party, Mr. Avigdor Lieberman. There are many issues to discuss, but maybe today is a day of celebration to you with this High Court ruling. First of all, we have come to realize and see that we do have judges in Jerusalem. And they made the most appropriate and right decision, also in terms of the needs of our security system, but also a morally right decision, because we cannot continue the way this government has done, discriminating on the one hand, laying the entirety of the burden for those who shoulder the burden, that are now doing their third round of reserve duty, those who did conscripted service, do reserve service, work, pay taxes. You cannot throw it all on them while and extending the reserve service by a year, and on the other hand exempting an entire other population from any obligation to the state. And nobody's doing this to be spiteful. At the moment, we are in the midst of war. We need soldiers. We need people. Not only the IDF and security forces, firefighting forces and prison forces and the Israeli Red Cross Magen David Adom. We cannot continue with the number of people we have. So this is a correct decision. It's morally and ethically the right decision as well. And no one, not even the government, can say anything, because all governments, not only this particular administration, all our governments over the years have avoided making a clear decision on this matter. We, for years, have been leading an enlistment law to all citizens, for everybody, Jews and Muslims and Christians and Druze and Caucasians, everybody at the age of 18. And tomorrow I will continue to speak up on this matter. No quotas and no exemptions, nothing. Everybody should provide service to the state at 18, give a service. But the High Court ruling is a value-oriented message, but practically speaking, what do you expect to happen tomorrow? If you're defense minister, do you tell the IDF chief of general staff to send enlistment letters to all of those young men? First of all, if I'm minister of defense, certainly I would. But even irrespective of who is the Minister of Defense, I believe that the state attorney has to make a clear statement to the Minister of Defense to implement the law. Because if the government doesn't listen to the High Court of Justice and doesn't implement them, where will we go from there? These are the rules of the game. And we should keep to the rules of the game. Otherwise, we will become a complete anarchy. And again, I reiterate and say that that there should be a clear decision, that there should be clear letters from the Attorney General said to the Minister. But even if there's now a Knesset discussion and there are processes of legislation in order to make a new enlistment law, because at the moment the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee says that there will be, an indiscriminate law? I don't know what an indiscriminate law you mean. I believe in indiscriminate in the sense that everybody enlisted at the age of 18. Everybody. You're talking about equality? Every young person at the age of 18, either to military service or national service. But you said yourself, no government in Israel has ever done so. They've all avoided this matter. You want this particular administration to do it? We've never been in this situation prior. We've never seen such a horrendous failure as October 7. And the ones that are responsible are this government, this prime minister, this defense minister, this IDF chief of general staff. No one is exempt from this responsibility. And what we've seen since October 7, this management of the war is wrong, is a failure. And no one would have imagined prior to this that we would find ourselves stumbling, facing a terrorist organization. I mean, 260 odd days, plus days already into this war, and we haven't we haven't resolved it. We have 5 fronts that are left open, You have to enlist everybody. You talk a lot about the strategic, severe situation Israel finds itself in. If you were the prime minister or defense minister, what would be the first thing that you do in order to get out of this predicament? First of all, you have to set priorities the right way to reorganize. We, at the moment, all of the IDF is busy in Gaza, and we are trying to take on and deal with everything that's happening on our northern border, but that is all on the margins of the major issue. The major issue, the major source of evil is Iran, and we're not even addressing Iran. If I look at everything that's happening, I say to you, and I don't want to get into specifics, I have never seen such an anemic government facing such a dire threat. We've heard the alerts, we've heard the reports. If you saw the last report from the Atomic Energy Commission, this is the IAEA, this is the most severe report ever produced. There's Refegos, director, and their report, and all of members of the organization. There's a report by the State Department of the US, G7 reports, and only the government of Israel is silent and not doing anything. Not doing anything, even without getting into the details. This government is not doing what needs to be done. So you warn that within 2 years there can be an Iranian attack that can... What am I warn? I'm talking about things that have been reported. But what are you basing it on? I base it on the Iranian announcement, declaration, that their major goal is the eradication of the Zionist enterprise in the state of Israel, that they've managed to bring together various fronts. We are being attacked from Iraq and Yemen and Syria and Gaza and Lebanon, from every direction. And they have managed to bring together their forces. And second, according to all of the assessments of all experts, everything I personally read in the open reports, published, they have enough enriched uranium to move forward, and they're now working on their armaments program to turn enriched uranium into of course, nuclear warheads, missiles, and so forth. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, who made his career from, the Iranian threat, he's unfamiliar with these materials, he doesn't see these reports. He is at the moment very busy with the thing that's most important, maybe, to the state of Israel, to appoint him a consul in Miami. Maybe that's vital for our future, in his opinion. But in any case, I also remember the Prime Minister that he was saying in the UN with the poster, "This is a bomb," and underlining it. Where's this underlined line? It's no longer red, it's no longer pink, he's not even talking about it. So where is the Prime Minister on this matter? Well, I don't know. I have no idea. He's dealing with the draft evasion law. He's talking about all sorts of issues. He's, repartees with ministers. So he doesn't see these materials and warnings about Iran. He sees them and he doesn't do anything. I am not the spokesman of the Prime Minister. I can tell you that what we see is what he does, his actions, and everything we would expect to be done, nothing of that is being done. Okay, what should be done? Okay, well, what should we do about it? But what is the first thing that Israel should do in order to deal with this threat that you describe? We have to do several things. There's no possibility of delving into specifics in this forum, but we need to, again, prioritize correctly our next steps. And this great, saga, this enormous failure, the last 8.5 months, the South, the North, we cannot, with all of this drama, forget that the Hezbollah doesn't exist without Iran. I mean, that is the direct outcome of Iranian influence. They are a proxy of Iran. And without the Iran, Hezbollah doesn't exist. In fact, the Hamas, even and specifically the Islamic Jihad, don't exist without Iran. All of the knowledge and money and planning, it all comes from Iran. All the funding comes from Iran. The state support comes from Iran. But the strategic situation is that you have 120 hostages in Gaza, tens of thousands of people from the north that are displaced from their homes. You have a severe conflict with the U.S. that threatens your armaments, or at least according to the Prime Minister, is delaying them. In this situation, what should Israel do against the Iranian threat that you described? As I said, we know what to do. I know what to do. This is not the place to discuss it. But the things that need to be done are not being done. And here one is to say that the U.S. are doing so much more than us in regards to Iran, so much more. They're doing far beyond, I would expect, far beyond what Israel is doing. And when you see this conflict between Netanyahu and the Biden administration against the weapons and arms, maybe Netanyahu is right. This is a year of elections, and maybe there's also U.S. politics involved. Look, when I was the transportation minister, and I was a young, nice guy. Now I'm just nice, but no longer young, okay? Well, at the time we had a slogan, don't be right, be smart. So even if he's right, maybe he should be smart about it, I think. I think there has never been any real, such a controversial, scandalous debate as there've been. We've always had disagreements with the U.S., fine, but we've always addressed our disagreements with the Americans behind closed doors and with respect. What's being done now is unprecedented, and it harms Israel directly. Our close relationship with the U.S. is part of our strategic foundation, and it is a pillar of our national defense. And this conduct is harming us directly. There's no doubt about it. Fighting with the U.S. I mean, like as if it was some kind of internal Likud faction argument. But you assumed that at the time that when Netanyahu would run ahead to a peace agreement with the Saudis, but now he's going head-to-head with the Americans. I mean, what is he doing? Look, what guides Netanyahu are just his question of political survival. That's all he's interested in, saying one day, another day, 2 more days in power. That is his interest. He avoids the most key and critical matters to the future of Israel. And if such an agreement with the Saudis, with Saudi Arabia, made that help Israel in our struggle against the Iranians, look, I very much support the agreement with Saudi Arabia without their nuclear program. We can support an agreement with the Saudis. We cannot agree to a Saudi nuclear plan. And please, no one speak nonsense. The Saudis can have oil. They don't really need to have nuclear power to have electricity. Seriously, they don't need nuclear electrical power. So you don't count on their discretion. The Iranian nuclear program also began as a civilian electrical power plant program with nuclear power. That's how it started. So nuclear electricity is something you cannot go back on, and you don't trust Netanyahu's discretion in regards to a peace agreement with the Saudis. I don't trust Netanyahu's discretion on any matter, may that be clear. We just saw the issue of a national inquiry commission about the submarine scandal and how that harms Israel. What do you think about that? I think you have to read the findings of this is not a final report, this is an intermediate report, by the way, but they came to very difficult conclusions specifically about 5 particular people, but I think we have to wait for the final report. Yes, and there was great things to be said about Netanyahu's conduct. Certainly, Yossi Cohen, Netanyahu, he was the previous chief, he was from, of course, head of the Navy for many years, but that's, at the end of the day, what I think is, since these are sensitive matters, I suggest that for now, apart from, we don't look at a draft of a report, but rather the final report and its conclusions, and then address them very seriously, because they will probably be severe as well. Okay, less sensitive matters, at least in terms of security, maybe more politically sensitive. The biggest issue, hottest issue, is the new right-wing government, the unification of right governments, this combination between you and Bennett and Gideon Sa'ar and others. Is this a great threshold moment, a watershed moment? Some people think that you need to unify now and not wait for the next elections. First of all, as wise men have already said in the past, these are things that you maybe, rumors or things that, and polls or something that you can listen to but never rely on. And there's a difference between poll numbers and real numbers. And at least my experience tells me that in politics 2 + 2 can equal 5 or 3. And at the time we did such a unity party, Likud, Beiteinu, we lost a lot of seats. So here as well, this possibility has to be looked at cautiously, responsibly. And it's not everything that you see in a poll should mandate your actions. Polls are important, surveys are important. This is an important tool for understanding opinion, but you can't rely on these polls, I think. In the meantime, polls build up a perception of two people as the leaders of this party, you, and at the moment Naftali Bennett is the second. How will you resolve this? Look, what needs to be resolved are a lot of other problems. I have said, in terms of experience and ability, I think that the basic ability to deal with this profound and comprehensive crisis, a security crisis, state country crisis, economic, social crisis, I think in terms of experience, I am the best candidate from among the possible candidates, although I respect Naftali and others. All of the others that were mentioned, each has, of course, their strengths and weaknesses. Nobody's perfect. And I understand that there are polls. Polls, you can, it says smell them but don't eat. You can listen to them but don't rely on them. I look at polls, of course, yes, but decisions should be made, based on experience and wisdom and data that is not only included in polls and surveys. The question is, should this unity party establish before elections so that then if you as the opposition, if want or dream or think or aspire to disband some of the Likud so that you have a real unity party, something of measurable scope? I don't think that we need to rush ahead and jump into the deep end. I don't. And first thing, what we have to understand, the circumstances are a lot more powerful than people. On October 6, we all talked about Netanyahu's attempt to take over the High Court and the central selection committees, and since October 7, we haven't talked about that very much. So you don't know when or under what circumstances things will unfold, what will happen in terms of our elections and so forth. So I suggest that for now, we are moving ahead at the right pace, and we don't need more than that. And in your, say, vision, if we don't jump ahead, but let's say we're the day after elections, and you are at the head of this party that we've described, and it gets whatever it gets according to the polls, and it's the biggest major party. What kind of coalition would you like to establish? Here I warn everyone, every crisis is also an opportunity, and we have to take advantage of this opportunity, building a Zionist coalition. Zionist parties, and there are differences, because when I hear that people talk about a broad national coalition, I think that's a mistake, because that's just, bringing in Shas and Yadut Torah and bringing them all in one fell sweep. No, at the moment we have a sufficient majority for a Zionist coalition. And if we have to have elections after such a terrible time and period, and then go back to where we were, to the same kind of division we had, no. This is an opportunity to change course. We have to change course, everybody. from having a constitution and having a mandatory enlistment and core studies in schools. There are so many challenges we have to tackle. You can't implement them not without a Zionist coalition. So Aryeh Deri won't get a phone call from you to join if it's I'm the one who's calling the shots. I would like to establish a Zionist coalition, if that case, without messianic ideas, without anti-Zionist parties included. No, this is a one-time opportunity. And Benjamin Netanyahu, what about him? At the moment, at least, I mean, you talked about polls and surveys. At the moment, without Benjamin Netanyahu, as of yesterday, the Zionist numbers are 33 seats. So first of all, I have to build a Zionist coalition. And if Likud wants to come without Netanyahu, then may they come, welcome. But without Netanyahu, no. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on.